Welcome to I Could Never, a podcast about non-monogamy and the many ways it can look. I'm Genevieve from Chill Polyamory on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, and I'm joined by my co-host and partner, Ishik.
Yeah, that's right. My name is Ishik, and I am in a heaven of my own making.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I'm literally surrounded by, comfy, warm pillows and blankets and stuff. It's pretty great.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's not the only thing I'm surrounded by. I'm also surrounded by good people, including our guest today, Libby Sinback. Libby, welcome.
Hello. Thanks for having me today.
Of course, of course. For anyone who doesn't know Libby, she is a relationship coach, educator, and the host of her own podcast, Making Polyamory Work.
And I was also a guest on there last year, so I can say for sure, go check it out.
We're so excited to have you here.
Oh, thanks, guys. I'm just excited to be able to share this space with you today.
But first, I was actually talking to somebody the other day about my good friend, Billie Jean. She was not my lover. She's just a girl that wants to viber vent.
Okay.
It's
Viber vent time. For anyone listening.
It was a strong one.
Yeah.
Okay? No one can take that away from me. That was good, and I liked it.
Okay. For anyone listening for the first time, we always like to start the show off with a little icebreaker called Vibe or Vent, where we'll each take a beat to share a bit about something that's either really making us happy recently or something that sucks that we need to get off our chest. So, Ishik, would you like to start us off?
Sure. I am actually venting a little bit today. So, Libby, I don't know how familiar you are with Dungeons & Dragons, but I'm an avid Dungeons & Dragons player. Specifically, I'm the dungeon master for my group. And for listeners who are more informed, which I know y'all are out there, I'm running a 20th level campaign, and my players have just finished this big mega dungeon that they've been in for a very, very long time. They've been in this huge high-level mega dungeon that I made. And I've had so much of it planned out for such a long time that, I haven't had to do the weekly work of the role. And now I just, they're out again. And we have this whole wide world of stuff that they want to do. And I'm just fuck, I have too much shit on my plate. I do not want to take on this time commitment right now to design all of this additional content to kind of finish out the campaign. And and I was sort of hoping they would die just so I could be done with it. But anyways, that's my vent. I'm good. I'd love to throw it over to you. Libby, are you vibing or are you venting today?
I'm vibing. I'm feeling really happy about our holiday plans because my kids are out of school for 2.5 weeks, so we have to figure out what are we going to do with them? Who are we going to see? Who are we not going to see? All these different things. But we figured out a plan that I'm really happy about. So I'm actually not feeling stressed at the holiday for once, which is last year I actually recorded a little voice note to myself being girl, you did too much. You need a rest. You're burnt out. Don't do this again next year. And this year I'm I didn't. I don't know. I'm vibing. I'm vibing.
You did it. Sometimes just the win is the absence of struggle.
Exactly.
And way to listen to past Libby. I often don't listen to past Ishik, so I have great respect for your discipline and actually being you know what? She had a point. I'll listen to her.
Well, I will go. I'm vibing today, actually. I was thinking about it. So I'm not a parent. I'm not a mom. You were just talking about your kids. But I am now of the age where a lot of my friends' kids are growing and discovering who they are and discovering what they like. And it's pretty cool to watch them continue to become people, just even from the sidelines. And I have 3 different friends that their kid is now questioning their own gender. And I'm watching my friends be such cool parents about it and just coming with questions. Oh, why do you feel that way? Why do you think that way? Would you like me to call you this or call you that? And just being sweet, just being curious. Everything is okay to ask. Everything is okay to feel. It's rad. It's rad. And I feel it's just so beautiful to see because one of those friends is trans. And it's in real time, you're being the parent you wish you had, So it's just really lovely. And I love to see it. So
that's beautiful.
Yeah. But we are here to learn more about you, Libby. We're really excited to get to know you better. And so What we like to start with is a little bit of background of, I know you've been polyamorous for quite a long time. So would you be down to walk us through the early days? Like, how did you first discover polyamory? How did you come to be in this way of living?
Yeah. It's interesting. I was like a real late bloomer. So when I was in high school, I didn't date. I was not one of those very romantically sexually active teenagers. Now that I understand myself better, I understand that, I was just an asexual. But so I was kind of a late bloomer. I kind of connected with the kink community in Atlanta, and I was like 19 and met some folks who were in kind of a triad. I don't know what they were. They were kind of a little polycule, I guess, but that word wasn't, I don't think that word was even invented yet. This was like 1998.
Wow. Yeah.
But they were a little nest, and they all loved each other, and they were all supportive of each other, and they all played together. And I just kind of like hung out with them for part of the summer. I explored, and they were all really lovely and warm, although there was definitely, in that polycule, there was definitely a couple. And I remember when I played with them, they were very coupley. Like they were trying to like constantly reinforce the couple while I was with them. I mean, nothing bad happened, it was just, I just wasn't into it. So anyway, that was like the beginnings. And so I was pretty young when I was exploring. I got really into the swing dancing community, and I got into my 20s, and I just assumed that nobody would want to do non-monogamy. Like, I just assumed that if I wanted to have a partner, I had to do monogamy. I just assumed that, even though I was really into the idea of polyamory, it didn't even occur to me that someone else would want to do that with me. I did know that I was queer, but I didn't think I could be bisexual. I didn't think that was allowed. Like, I knew you could be, and I remember being so excited when I'd see a bisexual character in a film, because I would just be like, oh, I can see what this looks like. Oh, she wants to sleep with her and him. What? And so that was like really exciting. But I just, again, I had this assumption that I had to pick a team, and I didn't want to not have a partner, even though I was pretty skeptical about marriage and kids and family and all that. I was pretty I was not on a trajectory to like have a particular shape to my life and my relationships. I was really open. But at the time, that was my assumption. And so I just assumed I had to pick the straight team and I had to pick the monogamy team. So I did that for a lot of my 20s.
I have so many points that I want to follow up on. And I do want to kind of go from there and also kind of bridge the gap from that point to now. But before that, one of the first things that kind of struck me that you touched on was being involved in this polycule. And there was like a couple that was very much reinforcing that coupleship. And I would love if you were to elaborate a bit, like what was going on there for anyone who's maybe experiencing something like that now.
Well, I think that couple was probably, and it was really more the woman, it was a heterosexual couple. And I think it was more the woman of the couple who was really driving that. There was a clear need for some kind of hierarchy to be expressed through that experience. She was constantly like, even if whatever he was doing with me or she was doing with me, she would constantly grab him and like be like, kiss me now or something like that. And it just felt very like everybody needs to know who I am in this dynamic and what my role is. In my head, what I was envisioning was they're this nice, solid couple and they're welcoming me in and they're going to make this really awesome for me. And instead, I really felt like this accessory. What I discovered when I was playing around with that, because in my logic brain, I was like, this seems like this would be hot. This seems like this would be fun. When I read about these things in like trashy romance novels, I'm like, that turns me on. When I see this in porn, I'm like, this turns me on. And so I thought it would turn me on to be in it. And then when they were doing all that hierarchy stuff, it just wasn't enjoyable. And I think the thing that I uncovered, again, I didn't have any languaging for this at the time, but if I was going to be sexual with somebody, like I really wanted to feel like I mattered. I really wanted to feel like valued, important, cherished. And I wasn't feeling that in that dynamic. Instead, I just sort of felt like, I don't know, like an accessory. And I do think that's some people's kinks. Some people do like feeling like a toy or something like that. And I thought I would think that was hot, actually, but it just wasn't. It just wasn't for me.
Well, especially because it sounds like that wasn't some kind of an intended, expressed experience. It wasn't like, oh, we're going to do this whole accessory kink thing. It was just a natural.
Well, we didn't even talk about it beforehand.
Exactly.
We didn't like these were people who I mean, who knows, right? I mean, again, I was so green to the kink spaces at that time. So I didn't know what I didn't know. So yeah, I mean, now if I was going to do something like that, I would talk extensively about what I would want to do and what I wouldn't want to do and what I'd want to experience and what I wouldn't want to experience. And I'd listen to them and talk about what they want to do and what they want to experience and what they don't want to experience. And probably if I'd sat down with them now and felt out their vibe, I probably would have been like, I don't think this is for me. I probably just would have passed.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's common, I think, when either you're new or you're young or you're new and young, to think, oh, well, people who have been doing this for at least more than one experience, so therefore more experienced, are like that they are confident that they know what they're doing, or that that they are entirely going to like welcome you.
Shepherd me through the experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a common expectation, and it's often not the case. Like, people have a whole range of motives and a whole range of like, feelings that they haven't totally processed between themselves and like internally. So yeah, like what you're saying is like, if we were to meet and have coffee, like who knows, maybe she would have done some territorial shit at coffee of like pulling him closer to her at the table. And you're like, actually, that would be worse in bed. So maybe not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I know that you met your now spouse, and I know that eventually you got to a place where you were in a triad and all of that. So I would love to walk us through how you get from there to present day,
It was funny when I met my spouse. So that was back in 2009. I met him just shortly after I turned 30. Like my criteria for dating someone was, you better be more fun to be around than what I could be doing without you, So it better be more fun than being alone, or it better be more fun than hanging out with my friends, and or at least as fun as that. And Drew always. I mean, Drew's like really fun and cool and interesting, and continues to get that way the more that I know him. So, he kept meeting that criteria. And so eventually I was like, I think I want to actually invest in this. Like, I think I actually want to commit to this and like make a real promise and like put some faith in it and put some stakes down and actually build a thing with you. At this point, both of my best friends were both polyamorous. Like I was feeling a lot about this, actually, that my friends were both in polyamorous dynamics and I wasn't. And I was like, I've been doing this since way longer than you. And like, here you are doing the thing that I wish I could do, but I'd already assumed that I couldn't do. And I had a friend that I knew through the swing dancing community who was in an open relationship, and he, asked me out. And I was like, well, let me see about that. And so I went and talked to Drew about it, and he was like, yeah, let's see what happens. Let's try it. His experience was, I really feel like I can trust you, and this makes me feel like I trust you more now that we're doing this and you're telling me everything and communicating everything and checking in with me. And like, he felt really cared for. And for me, I was like, oh my God, if I can have this level of freedom and flexibility and possibility, I could see myself spending the rest of my life with you. So it was like, if we can be poly, I could get married. I could have kids. We could do a family thing. Like, I'd be open to that if it didn't feel like it had to look like this way that I previously just didn't have a very high opinion of,
So opening up your relationship to polyamory, it sounds like it also opened you up to being a parent. That's so interesting. Can you share a little bit more about that?
When I was in my 20s, I was like, definitely not. I don't feel the need to pass on my genetic material. I don't feel the need to add more humans to the world. And that just changed with our relationship, I think, because what I saw in our connection was like, I think we'd be really good parents. I think what we're creating together as a couple and as a partnership is just really magical. And I just want to expand it. Like, I just want it to become this bigger thing of being a family. I didn't have a big family. And so I really wanted more family for myself. And so I was like, well, let's make it. And I already had some chosen family, like my best friend. We would always say that we were like sisters, and we were both only children, and we were both kind of similarly like without a lot of family for each other. And so we kind of became family to each other, and that was really beautiful. And, I really regard spouses as just another kind of chosen family, right? Like, getting married for me is about becoming family. It's not about romance and love and sex. It's about now we're family. Now your parents and me are in a relationship, and my parents and you are in a relationship, and we're all now in this interconnected web. That's what it meant to me. Otherwise, I'd just be partners. Like, I don't think you need to like make a commitment, make a legal document unless you're building something bigger. And you don't even have to get a document, obviously, to build something bigger. But for me, I wanted that, so that's what that was about. And then I really wanted then we were going to have kids, and then I wanted to have my village.
Well, so going back to your story, you had opened up your relationship with your husband. How did things go after that?
Even though Drew and I had established a non-monogamy with each other, I wasn't dating a lot because same criteria applied to anybody new I was dating. You better be more fun, or at least as fun as the other people currently in my life. And I wasn't meeting people who were more fun to hang out with than my spouse and my friends, but then I was realizing I really did need more community. And God, making friends with other parents is really hard, actually, or it was really hard for me. I found it harder than dating. So I decided to combine the two and start trying to date parents.
Okay.
So I went on a couple of dates with a couple of dads who lived near me, and they were just so excited to meet another poly parent. And they were just so excited that there were other poly parents in their area. And then it turned out that their families had a play date together. These two different guys that I'd gone on a date with had their kids had a play date with each other. So I was like, can I out you to each other? And they were like, sure. And so I invited them all over for dinner, like their partners, their kids, and them. And so there were 3 families. That was kind of the start of this little friend group that we started. Basically, like one of the people in the group was like, there are poly parents in my area. I'm going to find all of them. I'm going to get on OkCupid and I'm going to meet them all. And just building this community. And of course, within that community, people were dating each other. But I actually didn't date anybody in the parent group. But through all of these people that I was meeting, I ended up at a party, which was kind of a sensual, sapphic love fest. It was very cool. And that's where I met Kier. And Kier is trans, non-binary / transmasculine. And but at the time they described themselves as a lesbian when I met them. And they're a lot younger than me. So I was like, okay, you're cool, but we're real different. You're like a solid millennial, and I'm pretty sure I'm Gen X. So we're in different worlds. But they just kept wanting to hang out, and I enjoyed hanging out with them. And eventually they were like, are we dating or not? And I was like, I don't know. Are we dating? And at the time it was very casual. And they described themselves as a relationship anarchist. They described themselves as an outdoor cat. I mean, I remember when I met them, I was actually pregnant with my second kid, and I had the baby, and then I was at home, on maternity leave. And, it's really nice when that happens, because usually people come and they bring you food and they want to come visit with you and the baby. And Kier came and brought food. And then I was like, do you want to hold the baby? And they were like, no, thanks. They wanted nothing to do with kids. And they were real clear about that. I want nothing to do with kids. I don't know what to do with kids. I don't want to do, and I was like, that's fine. You don't have to be. That's fine. We can hang out. And, I am a mom. So occasionally a child might be in my vicinity if you're at my house. The way that I was thinking about dating at that point was I just didn't see it that different from friendships. I have tons of friends that don't hang out with my kids. Most of my friends, when I had kids, didn't have kids and still don't. So it wasn't even a thing on my radar. In the same way I don't have to negotiate childcare with my friends, unless they want to be involved. But they kept hanging out, and they kept hanging out, and they kept hanging out, and we kept hanging out. And it was a very slow burn kind of thing. Then at one point, I think we just invited them to spend Christmas with us. And my kids were getting to know them, and they were getting to know my kids. And there's this moment that I remember where I felt like something had clearly shifted, where they were holding my youngest a year later, almost a year later, and just rocking him and while a Christmas song was playing in my living room. And I was like, okay, this is weird. What's happening?
Going from, I don't want to touch your baby at all
Right.
to like, I'm now cradling and rocking. If you can kind of walk us through that shift, what that evolution has looked like, what their kind of role is now in terms of being at least an adult figure who's involved in the family, in the home. Yeah.
Well, I mean, for one thing, and I think this is just an important thing to say, like in general, I would say that if you're in a relationship with someone, just take them at their word, whatever they say. And I took Kier at their word. I don't want anything to do with kids. Okay, you don't want anything to do with kids. I'm a person with kids, so I'm not going to foist them on you, but they're people. So they're going to be around sometimes. And I have a couple of memories that stick out to me that I think were maybe these little like signposts of what was coming. And I think one was when I was with the two of my kids when they were very small, and we were in like the playroom, and Kier was just coming over to hang out because I think I was still on maternity leave at the time. And so I had a lot of free time. And so they were just hanging out, and I was just parenting my children. And I think they have a lot of like childhood trauma and a lot of specifically trauma around neglect from their parents. And this is all stuff that they have said that I can share. And this is all stuff that like is not unknown to their parents. And so this isn't anything that's secret. But because of that, I think there was just something that happened for them. I mean, I even saw it on their face, just seeing me be really attentive and caring and nurturing, that I think clicked something for them, that they were like, I think I really want to be part of this. Mm-hmm. I don't know how, and I don't know why, and I don't know in what way. And if I was going to make up a story just based on the many conversations we've had about it, I think they had an idea in their mind that their involvement with children could only ever replicate what they experienced. And seeing something different made them think, oh, maybe I could have some kind of involvement in some kind of way that could go different, that could feel different, and maybe that might be good for me, And then I just noticed them, wanting to be around more, wanting to be around the kids more. It was really on their initiative, honestly, them kind of like wanting to be around more and me being like, okay, sure.
So, how did things develop from there?
So I started dating Tom, who is my other partner of, I guess, almost 8 years now. And then about maybe 3 or 4 months later, Kier was at our house. And at this point, Drew and Kier had hung out a lot, and they were very good metamours with each other. They were very chill. But I think at one point I told them, you guys, you really like to cuddle while you sleep, and I don't. Like, I don't like anybody touching me while I sleep, but you both really like that, and I can't give that to you. So do y'all want to just go to sleep together tonight and cuddle each other? And I don't think I was aware at the time that they were having a lot of attraction towards each other, but apparently they were. And me kind of just saying that, they were like, yeah. And then the next day, Drew comes up to me and he goes, so we kissed. And I was like, wow, awesome.
Okay.
And I was really excited about it. So Kier and I were like a slow burn. Drew and Kier were like a rocket ship. Like, they were just like so into each other. And honestly, I was so into Tom at the time too. So our relationship had been kind of taking off like a rocket ship too. So it was kind of this interesting thing where we were both having these like really intense falling in love experiences. Drew and I were, and Kier and I were, and Tom and I were, like, I guess all 4 of us were having him. And so that's how that evolved. And it wasn't like all smooth sailing, sunshine and rainbows. Like, I think Drew had Drew had a lot of difficult feelings about Tom and I when we were taking off like a rocket ship. There were some things that it stirred up in him and in his past that were hard. And I think there were things about it that were hard for Kier. And Kier and Tom did not really vibe with each other. So, and I remember Tom also expressing some insecurity as once Kier and Drew got together about like us being this triad. And he was like, and I'm not in the triad, so how, where do I fit in here? And, and so it was a lot of like, you, this, that. I mean, but I think we did okay.
So you mentioned earlier that you're on the asexual spectrum. When did you realize that? And did that change your relationships at all?
I think it was like 2018 was when I had this realization about me being asexual and needing to honor that, and realizing that I had been putting a lot of pressure on myself to be sexual when I didn't feel like it. And so I had to say to both Kier and Drew, I have to stop having sex with you for a little while. And I don't know how long, but this part of our relationship needs to stop because I've noticed that I've been putting pressure on myself to be with you in that way. And I don't want to be in that cycle of putting pressure on myself and feeling bad and feeling stressed and all that stuff. So I just need to stop. And they were both really receptive. I was really scared. I was scared, especially that Kier would break up with me. But they didn't. And Drew didn't and was very cool about it. And Kier and I never became sexual again after that. And so we always, since 2018, had a non-sexual but romantic partnership. Drew's and my sexual relationship did come back, but it took a long time. It took some time. And the whole time I kept my sexual relationship with Tom because I wasn't putting pressure on myself with him. It always felt like a joyful yes. And so I didn't feel like I had to do anything different.
So it sounds like there was a lot of change in these dynamics, you know, with Kier and your relationship no longer being sexual and things between them and Drew starting to really pick up and get more intense. And then also this triad forming between all three of you. That's a lot. I would love to hear how things kind of progressed from that point forward.
In 2020, when we had lockdown, Kier was living apart from us. They were living with roommates, and it was looking like, you know, just with the way like the quarantining was expected to be in the US, like you either had to not see each other at all or live together. So we were trying to figure that out. And Drew was like, look, I just really want them to move in. I think Drew's and Kier's relationship had deepened, and my relationship with Kier had kind of gone through a lot of ebb and flow. So I was a little hesitant, but I said yes. And you know, with the pandemic, the kids were also out of school. Mm-hmm. Drew and I still needed to work. So Kier like volunteered to just take shifts of childcare. Like they were not working because they had been working in a restaurant and all the restaurants were closed. So they were like, I have free time. I can take this much.
Sure.
And they were just really clear about what they were available for and what they weren't available for. They were clear about what they were willing to do and what they weren't. And so really, I kind of just followed their lead on it. And then that, you know, that's shifted and changed here, you know, back and forth over time. So there was a time where they really were very involved in taking care of the kids. And in the last like maybe 2 years or so, they've been leaning more away from it. I think when they started going back to work, so that was 2020, and they've lived with us ever since. We moved to Atlanta together in 2021. The 5 of us, Kier, Drew, I, and the boys moved into a house in Atlanta, and then we all bought a house together. Yeah, that's the fast version.
Yeah.
There's a lot I have to leave out.
So obviously there was a big change in Kier's role as like another adult in the kids' lives. Given that that wasn't the original plan, was there a learning curve at all with bringing them in and integrating this new person into your kids' lives?
My mom was living with us, so like we had an extra caregiver already. And you know, navigating that secondary caregiver, that's what Kier likes to be called, as a secondary caregiver. They're very clear that there is a hierarchy here and they like that and they want it that way. And it was much harder with my mother because the lines were so much blurrier. You know, she would always say, well, you're the parents. But then I would say, well, okay, then I'd like you to not let them sit and watch TV down in your space. I'd like you to not give them your phone and just let them play with it. And then she would do that. Mm-hmm. And I would be like, okay, well, but I don't understand. Like I've asked for this and you did this and I don't know what to do. So that was I feel like I got a crash course in how to navigate additional parent figures with my mother. I mean, that's kind of like our harder challenges, which are normal parent challenges, you know, and normal in the sense that like, it's not tied to our relationship style. It's tied to other hard things going on. Like my 11-year-old, the hard thing for him right now is just navigating friendships and dealing with wanting different things or dealing with someone having a crush or, you know, that's the hard stuff for him. It's almost like what we're doing doesn't really even matter a ton, you know, as long as he feels safe and as long as he feels like he has someone to talk to and gets his needs met, you know, like those are the things that are like really important. When one parent is overwhelmed and the other one is overwhelmed too, because we have our own neurodivergencies and things like that, having extra people around is really good. And we have too, because my mom doesn't live with us anymore, but she just lives right down the street and she takes the kids for sleepovers once a week.
Yeah, I mean, the value of having so many different kinds of role models, so many different kinds of adults in your life, and specifically adults like yourselves that are talking through things, asking each other questions. People will ask me parenting questions to which I can't speak. I usually refer them to folks like yourself, but they'll say, like, won't something go wrong, or people coming in and out of my kid's life. And I'm just like, I don't know. I've predominantly seen really well-adjusted kids who just see conflict is okay to have. They have examples of how to work through it. They're not scared of it. They adjust to a lot of different types of relationships, and it's not all binary, all or nothing. You're either in or you're out. Like, there's just a security that I've seen so many polyamorously raised kids have. Not that you can't in a monogamous family as well, but I think that's yeah, it's something that sometimes the nuclear family model doesn't make roles for, is having a person like a Kier around,
Yeah.
I just want to say really quick, I absolutely love the comparison and the tying together of these experiences between having Kier as a secondary caregiver and that experience with your mother. I think that is such an effective way to talk about this with people because that's always, I'm sure you hear it all the time. It's always the thing, right? Like, what about the kids? Like, how are you going to do parenting? And it's this big question mark that people fill with like the worst nightmare scenarios. And I think that is not a way that I've ever thought to frame the discussion, but you're right, it's very similar, right? It's the same
or
premise.
A sister coming and helping out, or a friend.
Exactly, like a family member, right? Like anyone, a friend, a family member, what have you. That is a very relatable experience. Almost every parent will have that experience of like navigating these like different views, and they're like a different party who's not the primary caregiver. That is so perfect, and I'm locking that one in to keep for a long time. That's awesome.
Well, it's funny that you say that because, I remember when we told my husband's parents about this whole thing, and specifically, they were like, who are these people to us? Like, how are we supposed to relate to them? Like, that was a big stressor for them because they didn't have, like what you said, they didn't have like a context that they could fit these relationships into. They're like, we know what a boyfriend is. We know what a spouse is. We don't know what this is. Are we expected to take them in as family? Are we expected to, see them as another parent? Like, what are we supposed to do? And they were really looking to us to tell them. And Drew and I just looked at each other and we said, like, you can do whatever you want. Like, if you want to be close to them, be close to them. We're close to them. So if you want to be close to us, like, you might want to be close to them. But if you don't want anything to do with them, you don't have to. And they were just so confused by that. They didn't know what to do. So I think it's like, and I think a lot of people feel that way. Like I would say I haven't had as many comments in the last few years about like, oh my God, are your children okay? I mean, I guess nobody would say that to my face, But what I have gotten is, who does your kid think that person is? What do you call that person? Are they auntie or uncle? Are they mom or dad? Like, who are, like, they're looking for a bucket to put that person in. And they don't know what to do when I'm like, they're Kier. And I feel really fortunate. I think this is one of the reasons why I was so enamored with Drew from so early on, is that like, I think we both were like, these buckets are silly. They don't make sense. Let's make the buckets that make sense to us. But like so many people that just breaks their brain.
Yeah. And that is also an aspect of like when people are worried about expanding their family, it's like, well, what does our extended family think? What do we say to them? How do we do holidays? How do we, like redefining the social scripts internally in the household? Well, if everyone's on board, but then once you're interacting with people who are like, I'm not trying to do that work. What is this? That can be tough. Yeah.
Well, and that has been tough for Kier, actually, I will say. Like, it's easier for Drew and I to kind of go, like, see it however you want. For them, because they don't have a visually identifiable role in the family, they've expressed, like, how do I act with you when we're around other parents of your kids' friends? Like, what should I say? Like, what is okay to do or not do? What kind of affection can I express? Like, I was like, I don't care. I don't care. Like, if somebody were to judge us for like Kier and Drew sharing a kiss or something like that, or when we were together, because we're not together anymore, if we were doing that, like, that wouldn't bother me. Like, if somebody had a problem with that, it wouldn't bother me, but I could understand the discomfort they might have of being the instigator of that. You know what I mean? And so we did have more of those conversations about, like, in the wider context, like it being established.
So I do want to follow up with what you just brought up in terms of like your current structure. But before that, I did really want to ask, you were kind of talking about this premise of like perception or potentially judgment from the outside. What I would actually like to do is kind of flip that a bit, because your kids at this point are getting to the age of being preteen, teenagers, right? Where they have their own opinions, they have their own perspectives. And like, I can just imagine, being that age where like, no, like, mom, don't drop me off. I don't want the other kids to see you dropping me off. Like, like stuff like that. They start getting their own sense of like how they want to be perceived. And so I'd love to get a sense if there's ever been any things that they've said or expressed about how they want you or Drew or Kier or anyone to behave with regards to your relationships with each other publicly, for perception of them, if that makes sense.
No, that totally makes sense. And that's a really, it's a good question. So, I mean, I've been practicing some form of non-monogamy since before they were born. And definitely my younger one doesn't remember a time where Kier wasn't around. I'm not even sure if my younger one has an awareness, because he's 9, but I don't know that he has an awareness now that our family's especially weird. But so that's him. My older one is 11, and he's definitely like a preteen, but he seems quite proud of our family. There was a thing that was really sweet, because he did a human sexuality program that the UUs teach here in the States called Our Whole Lives. It's age appropriate. They have different kind of curriculum for different grade levels, but this was for, I think, 3rd through 5th grade, or maybe it was 4th through 6th grade. I don't remember. But anyway, it was his age range. It's not just about sex. It's also about relationships and family and consent and your body and all of that stuff. In one of the classes, they talked about families and relationships and stuff like that. So I actually emailed one of the teachers, like, hey, how is my older kid doing in your class? And this is what she wrote back. She said, your kid is one of our MVPs. He brings prior knowledge of many things, enjoys sharing that knowledge in class. We would say that it's been valuable for him to have these conversations with his peers. He validates others' experiences and he has commented, I didn't know that, a few times. So there are things to add to his knowledge. And he has been comfortable and forthcoming with sharing your family structure during our discussion about attractions this week. He is so confident and lovely. That is thanks to the love and attention of you and your partners. We have actively supported him as he shares this with his classmates. This was well received by others who do not share this experience and sparked some to ask more about the topic. And they said they're going to be laminating a polyamorous card to add to their word bank for class.
Aww.
Because of his contributions to the class.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Listeners, I'm genuinely tearing up. I don't know about you. That was really okay. I'm fine.
I cried too. So yeah, I felt really proud of him. That was a good moment.
Yeah.
I mean, but I also do think it might feel different if there was someone really popular at his school who was being negative about him because of his relationship style, where there was being bigoted about it and making him a pariah. Then he might turn towards us and say, you're ruining my life. I could see that happening in a non-accepting environment. I feel really lucky that amongst the parent community that we're a part of, people are either neutral or supportive. His friends are invited over to the house and they come play and it's fine. I mean, I've definitely heard stories of yeah, you can come over to our house, but our kid can't come over to yours. I've heard that happening with other poly parents who are out. So I know that not everybody is accepting, or there's some trepidation. I don't know what they think is going to happen. But maybe it's just, the way that some, people 20, 30 years ago were afraid of catching the gay. Maybe they're afraid that we're going to indoctrinate them in our polyamorous ways or something. I don't know. But yeah, so I think that makes a big difference. I think that if it felt like it was having a big social cost to him in some way, sure.
You mentioned that you and Kier are not together anymore, but you are still living together.
Indeed.
Yeah. So I would be really curious to hear about that change. It's not the first big change that you've all navigated, but can you tell us a bit about what those conversations were like and how it looks now?
Yeah. Thank you for asking. It's so we broke up in April of 2024. So just like 9 months ago, maybe. Leading into that, we were actually trying to like deepen our relationship. Like we were trying to reconnect and deepen. And like I think I said earlier, like before then, we'd kind of gone through a lot of ebb and flow. And then there was a point where they and I just had some real friction in the ways that we handled yucky feelings. Like they were very, very avoidant, and they would shut down, and I would feel kind of frozen out and punished and get really upset. And we worked on that dynamic for a while. And I mean, I really think that relationship gave me so much because of how different we are from each other and how much we had to work out to be together. And we both really wanted that. Like we both saw the other one, I think, and was like, you're amazing. You're so cool. You've got so much going on. You're so smart. You're so interesting. I want to make this work. And then clash. Like went through a lot of we had times where I said, I can't hang out with you. And I don't want to spend time with you that we aren't deciding intentionally to spend with each other. And so Drew and Kier would have their dates at Kier's house, and it's not that Kier wasn't welcome at our house. It was just that I had to buy into it too. And we'd still hang out as a family. We'd still do stuff together, but I just had really needed space from them. And then we reconnected and we rebuilt a little bit. We never clashed over Drew, which is a funny thing. Like there was never any jealousy, at least not on my side. And I don't think there was on their side. I just feel like our relationships with him were so different and distinct. And we both feel, I think, really secure in where we stand with him that I don't think we ever worried about it. But when they moved in, again, I was in a place where I wasn't sure that I wanted that level of intimacy with them. And I kind of took a leap of faith. And they moved in and I was like, it was hard. It was actually pretty hard. Like some of the ways that I am, I think they're especially vulnerable and sensitive to. And some of the ways that they are, I'm especially vulnerable and sensitive to. So it's like, it's not that we're, either of us are bad or wrong, but just that like some of the ways we act when we're triggered really hurt the other one. And again, because I was always trying to be close, that was really hard. And so it was about, I don't know, December of last year, maybe January, February, where I started thinking, like, what if I just said, we aren't partners? What if I just said, we don't have to try anymore to make a shape for our relationship, but instead just honor, at what distance can I be with you and just love you and let you be who you are and not need you to do anything different or be different or anything like that. That was kind of where I was. Because before we'd been really trying to force something. We were really trying to deepen a lot and it was not working. And we were having fights like I've never had with them. And it was so hard and it was stressful for us. It was stressful for Drew. And I just was like, I can't do this. Part of my burnout was the stress of that relationship. And so I came to a realization, I think that we just have to let this go. And then I don't know. That was the hard part. Is I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. We didn't know if they'd need to move out or I'd need to move out or what, or we'd need to sell the house and we'd all move out. We didn't know that. We didn't know, I didn't know anything. I just knew that I needed to find something different. And so I told them and they took it pretty hard and they took a lot of space. They really didn't want to interact with me for a while, even though we were living in the house. And we came up with some, sort of basic terms of interacting. They told me they felt rejected, but we kind of just stayed in that I don't know together for a while. And, luckily we both have therapists and and support. And luckily I just think Drew's amazing because I think imagine how hard that would be for him. His two partners don't even want to interact with each other. I think that's one of the hardest situations to be in. But he's very good at not triangulating. He's very good at being accepting and letting people be where they are. And he was very glad that we weren't fighting anymore.
Yeah, like that. I can only imagine it's been tough for him. It's obviously been tough for you. Like, and how did you each kind of manage, being each other's support person while you're both also having feelings about it?
You know, this is a difference between he and I. I will get like big clouds in the sky dreams of how I want a thing to be, you know? And when it's not that way, I'm like hugely disappointed, you know, and I have to cope with my disappointment and my grief. He's not like that. I mean, he'll get like that about, we're going to have sushi for dinner. Oh no, the sushi restaurant's closed. Like he'll get that way, but he doesn't have a grand plan of how he expects like relationships to work out or how things need to be. Like, I don't know how to describe it. It's just, I don't feel like he needs me to be any different from how I am most of the time. And I don't think he needed the situation with me and Kier to be different from how it ended up being. So I think that's part of it, is like him just not needing that to be a particular way. And also, you know, keep in mind, he's been dealing with this for years in a way, because we've had such an up and down relationship. And he's like, that's not about me. That's not my thing, you know? And so I think he is really able to compartmentalize it and separate it. Again, I think because I have so much trust in that, I haven't felt like I can't turn to him for support. And also I have other sources of support. You know, I have other people that I talk to about it. And Kier has other people in their life too. So I think it's so important to have like a community of friends, like not just have, like, I think if it was just the three of us and that was it, that would be not good. Mm-hmm. It's so important to have other people besides your partners that you can talk to about stuff. And also I have my other partner, Tom, who I could talk to about stuff too. So that was also helpful. But honestly, I mean, the people that were the most supportive to me were some of my friends who I would just vent about what was happening in a way that I didn't want to with Drew. Like I would vent to him sometimes, but I would really try to limit it, because he's going to sleep in that person's bed. You know, do I want to sit and like vent about them? And sometimes it would be, I'd start venting and he'd be like, I really can't hear this right now. I'm sorry. I mean, that definitely would happen, you know, where I'd just start talking and he would be like, look, I can't right now. I mean, honestly, he just also would get really upset with us if we were fighting. He would, that's the thing that he was the most bothered by, was if he could hear us having a very elevated emotional discussion downstairs, and he's upstairs working, because he and I work from home. So he's like, this is stressing me out to have to know that this is happening. I can't focus. I can't get my work done. And we, for a long time, we would both tell him like, hey, we need to be able to figure this out. We need to be able to work this out. Like, we need to be able to have tense moments with each other. You need to get some noise canceling headphones, buddy. But ultimately, like, again, we both really respect the relationship that he has with each of us. So I don't think any of us wants to do stuff that undermines it, you know?
You know, so it sounds like that journey of going from that kind of breaking point to the shape that you were wanting, or you didn't maybe know what it was going to look like, but it's maybe at least on its way there or gotten to that place. And I'd love to get a sense, to the degree that you're comfortable sharing, kind of what that shape looks like now on like a day-to-day basis.
I haven't told a lot of people that Kier and I have broken up, because it doesn't actually feel that relevant, because they're still part of my family. And we've both agreed on that. In fact, they told me that like a couple of weeks ago. They said, you're my ex and you're my family. That's what I tell people. And it just actually got a little teared up when they said that, you know, like ex and family. That feels nice, because that's how I feel. Well, they've been real clear that there's a certain level of emotional intimacy that they don't want with me. And for me, the line is blurry, because I'm just like, I'll have an emotionally intimate conversation with my Uber driver. So, so for me, it's not, but like for them, I think vulnerability is something that is challenging for them, and like really vulnerable. And so they've been real clear, like there's a certain level and that's set by them. It's not set by me. You know, they get to opt in and out of what they want. If I ask you a question and you don't want to answer because it's too intimate of a question for you, just say, I don't feel comfortable answering that, or I don't want to talk about that with you, rather than putting it on me to like manage how intimate or not intimate we get. You know, that's where they set their limits around that. And when they back off, their ask of me is to just be like, no problem, cool, and just drop it, you know? Rather than, you know, why won't you tell me, or come on, you know, or anything like that. Like none of that. I wish we could all love each other without coercion, you know? And really, that's kind of how we all are with each other. If I don't want to hang out with Drew's parents, or he doesn't want to hang out with my mom, or, like, the only thing we can't opt out of is parenting our children, and that's just Drew and I, right? Because like we had them, we made a bargain and the bargain was we're in this and we can't get out of it. Even as much as we might sometimes wish we could. But yeah, so I think it's just, honestly, Ishik, it's like really respecting each other's choices and each other's wants and needs in a given moment. And just really like, I don't know, that's what it feels like it is. It's just like a lot of respect, the same way you would with a family member. I mean, again, to bring it back to like my mother, that was the same thing with her. We were living together and that wasn't working. We just weren't very compatible roommates, and we worked at it for 8 years and then it stopped working and she moved out, and it was really painful at first, but like our relationship is better because we changed the shape. It's really worth it. And I feel like that's maybe one of the big like lessons of my life and themes of my life is just like the best way to love somebody is to accept them as they are right now. And you can still love each other. Just find the distance at which you need to be so you can.
Thank you so much, Libby, for joining us today. It was really nice to learn more about you.
Oh, it was so fun to talk to y'all.
You're so generous with your story.
I don't know if this is weird to say, but I'm actually like really, really proud of us. Not that I have anything bad to say about people where it doesn't happen this way. There are definitely moments where I would have been totally okay with someone saying like, I just can't do that. I just can't do it. It's just too much to be close and not, and like also be grieving the relationship at the same time. I don't want anybody to take away that like the way that we handled all of these things is like the way, or that it's better. But I am really proud of us for being able to keep showing up with like the intention to be loving, the intention to do no harm, the intention to be kind. I feel like I've just spilled my whole life to you.
It's going to be so helpful for so many people.
Yeah. I mean, we'd love to have you inform the audience about anything you've got going on, any work that you want to plug, or any upcoming projects that you want to let people know about.
Sure. I'm on Instagram at That Polyam Mom. I do have a podcast. It is on hiatus for now. So the last episode I put out was July 2024, but I am bringing it back. I may have already brought it back by the time this episode airs. So that's called Making Polyamory Work. I like it. I think it's a good show. I'm also a relationship coach and I work with clients. So if that's something that's of interest to you, you just go to my website, libbysinback.com, and you can find out more about how to work with me. I also 3 to 4 times a year teach a relationship skills course called Foundations of Open Relating.
Perfect. Cool. Definitely go check out libbysinback.com or That Polyam Mom. And if you are looking for more polyamory content, Genevieve is on TikTok and Instagram at Chill Polyamory, as always. She's also on YouTube at Chill Polyamory, where she discusses non-monogamy in film and TV.
You can support those projects and this podcast directly on Patreon, where you'll get early access to videos, private stories, live question and answers, and an option for one-on-one peer support. So that's patreon.com/chillpolyamory.
Yep, and I highly recommend it. I'm a longtime fan.
Aw.
That's very sweet. And for all the listeners, this has been I Could Never. And just remember that just because you've never done something before doesn't mean that you can't do it. Yay. Bye!
Bye.